Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to the association for this invitation. So today I would like to drive you through this agenda. So first to introduce CVA, Corporate Value Associates, who we are. Second, to deep dive on a specific segment which may represent some opportunities for fertilizer producers, but also challenges. So we'd like to have a market overview on this market, to introduce the recent developments, and to present what can be the challenges for you gentlemen. Yes. So just a few words about CVA. CVA, it's a global strategy consulting company with 300 consultants across the globe in 15 offices. So we provide strategy consulting services, meaning how to position on new markets, how to reposition on the value chain, improve the top line in terms of pricing, marketing, customer segmentation, and how to improve fertilizer players' costs, including sea freight, including G&A, capex, working capital, and so on. We have a dedicated platform or team on the fertilizer industry, which is quite unique in this management consulting universe. And we are leveraging a lot on our publications, our experts to identify new opportunities for fertilizer players. We work through the value chain with fertilizer producers, but also with distributors and farmers association to identify the best strategies. So we are deeply convinced that given current market conditions, fertilizer producers have to differentiate and diversify their product portfolio. This is a requirement to, given especially now the low prices, to improve the netback, to position on new businesses, to create growth options, and to reduce the volatility of your revenue. So there are plenty of opportunities in the market, plenty of different niche segments to position on, including the water-soluble fertilizer. So a quick overview on the fertilizer, the typology of potential products in the fertilization products. So we can differentiate the minor role fertilizers and the non-minor role fertilizers, including all what is related to the organic, to the microbiomes, the biostimulants, and so on. But looking at the minor role fertilizers, most of the fertilizer producers are pure players in the straight fertilizer industry, meaning producing urea, producing DAP, MOP, and these commodities. There is a territory which is to be explored, what we call specialty fertilizers. Specialty fertilizers, including water-soluble fertilizers, but also nutrient release modifiers such as controlled release, slow release, sulfur-coated, and stabilized fertilizers. So we'd like to really deep dive on this specific segment, which is the water-soluble fertilizer. So this segment is a sizable, high growth, high margin, and low volatility market. So in terms of revenue and market size, it represents roughly $20 billion to be compared to the $150 billion as a total fertilizer market. So it's a sizable market. Second, it is a high growth market. Roughly 10% annual growth rate, to be compared to I would say, the classic fertilizer industry, which grows at 2% per year. In terms of netback, it offers huge premium on top of the nutrient value, 30 to 50% additional margin compared to the usual fertilizers. And it is, last but not least, a sticky and less volatile market, meaning that you don't suffer the nutrient value fluctuations as in the commodity businesses. So, yeah, it was a general introduction on the specialties, and the water-soluble niche is one of the most attractive segments within the specialties territory, with strong, roughly 20% of the total specialties market, representing 3 to 4 million ton products. It's growing at the same level, roughly 7 to 10% growth rate, meaning that this market can double in terms of size in the coming 10 years. It offers significant premium, and in the long term, the outlook is quite positive because it's highly related to water scarcity, because these water-soluble fertilizers will be used in the micro-irrigation system. So this water stress is a long-lasting trend that will impact the fertilizer mix in the future. So in terms of the key facts and figures regarding the demand for water-soluble fertilizers, today most of the volumes are in Asia, Europe, and to a lesser extent in the Americas and the Middle East and Africa. So the breakdown of the 3 to 4 million ton water-soluble fertilizers. The first product is potassium nitrate with 37% of these total volumes. Then we have the calcium nitrate, 30%. Phosphate-based fertilizers, so ammonium phosphate and potassium phosphate. And then the potassium sulfate with 12%. So the key message that it is growing at a steady rate, but with quite different dynamics depending on the regions. Most of the growth will come from Asia and Africa and the Middle East in the future. We'd like to highlight that there is a very high potential in Africa and the Middle East, considering water scarcity, considering the current penetration of this product, to boom in the future. So, I'd like to present what we believe would be the key drivers for the growth of this water-soluble fertilizer market. So first one is the decreasing available arable land and water stress risk. So today 50% of the global population lives in water-stressed countries. It represents 33 countries. In parallel, population is growing with changing diets, with different crop mix, increasing demand for fruits and vegetables, requiring specific irrigation and products. Third driver is the improvement of the irrigation system through a better water use efficiency, diversification of cropping system, favoring again the water-soluble fertilizer adoption, and very important, the impact of regulation. So the government's trying to improve, I would say, the qualitatively the type of fertilizers farmers consume. And water-soluble fertilizer, it's a way to optimize the nutrient intake by soils and by plants. So in China, for example, the government is pushing a lot to adopt this kind of product. So I would like to present a few illustrations on these points. So this graph shows the evolution of the arable land decreasing by 20% between 2015 and 2050. In parallel, as you rightly mentioned, the world would need for, I would say, more crops, more people requiring more food. This is an illustration of the development of the micro irrigation system in Asia. So it is already quite advanced in South Korea with the micro irrigation representing 40% of the irrigated land. But in the other countries that would experience more water scarcity, we can see that the level of development is quite low, between 1 to 3%. And we expect a very significant growth of the micro-irrigated lands in the future, plus 20% per year in India, 14% in China, 20% in Thailand. That means that the water-soluble market is expected to boom in these countries. So this is a zoom on India. You can see that the historical evolution of water-soluble fertilizer consumption was 21% per year, 30% growth of the micro irrigation systems. We can clearly see a correlation, and considering that the government is looking for investing more than 60 billion in micro irrigation systems, you can feel that the market will really rapidly grow in the future. So would like to point also out that the demand by products, the product mix, is totally different by market, considering crop requirements, considering also the availability of products locally. But in Spain, for example, which is the biggest market in Europe for water-soluble fertilizers, potassium nitrate represents roughly half of the market. And you can see that the product mix is totally different from one product to another. This requires to customize the product mix depending on the markets you're serving. A few words on the supply. So today we have only a few players in the market. So the largest, this is excluding China, because most of the production is in China, but with very limited information on available capacities. Considering the large international fertilizer producers, we can see that there is no one leader in this market, and usually players are specialized depending on their access to raw materials. So China, we try to put on paper available information on these capacities. Most of the demands, most of the supply are based in China, the biggest producers and exporters being Syngenta and Monbang. However, we believe, there is a huge number of very small water-soluble fertilizer producers that can have an impact on the overall supply and demand equilibrium as for the commodity products, by the way. Regarding prices, so the market price can go up to $1,300 per ton fertilizer. So you can see the gap and the premium compared to the commodity products, compared to DAP or MAP, compared to MOP and all these commodities. Would like to also highlight that these prices would highly depend on the market you're serving and the brand. And for the Chinese producers, for example, the quality level is perceived as lower, but this can be translated by discount of $200 per ton in the final price. So considering these opportunities, several players, including Arab fertilizer producers, are positioning on this niche. OCP launching a new product line, water-soluble MAP, in Tunisia. Alchemia also producing water-soluble MAP in Gabes. We've seen international producers like KNS to launch a wholesale system in India. So that's something happening in this market, and we believe this is a good opportunity to explore for fertilizer producers. So it is an opportunity, but it requires specific success factors. It's not the same kind of business like the commodity fertilizers. It requires brand recognition, because this is a very high value niche product, so the value of the brand, it's a must-have to push the premium. Second, marketing capabilities. You don't sell to farmers a water-soluble fertilizer like you sell a commodity product. So you need technical sales, people on field, on the ground, to promote these products, the specificities, the agronomic value to retailers, to farmers. It requires specific route to market. What does it mean? It means that the logistics systems are different. Water-soluble fertilizers are usually transported through containers or small bags, and it requires specific setup, meaning strong distribution networks or partnerships across the value chain to make sure that the brand and the agronomic value are protected. And last but not least, production capabilities. These products are quite costly to produce in terms of capex. So there is an important barrier to entry, which is the capex required to build the plant. And production also capabilities to ensure consistent product quality as final customers do not make any compromise in product quality. So, hope that's okay. So in conclusion, the water-soluble fertilizer market, it's a niche market, but with relatively small volumes, but high value, high premiums. It is a good option for fertilizer producers to diversify their product portfolio beyond the commodity products. It's driven by really positive long-term trends, climate change, social expectations, technical regulation factors, but it requires totally different capabilities in terms of agronomic knowledge, marketing, branding, production, and logistics. So if you have any question, I would be pleased to answer. Thank you for your attention.